Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here, back with another guide for Final Fantasy XVI. This time I'm going to show you how to defeat Bahamut. Bahamut's fight is split into two separate fights, so you will have two instances of the fight ending and gaining experience. However, this is going to be one guide that includes both fights. There is no quick save between the two encounters, so it just made more sense to make one guide. If you were to restart at any point of this fight, whether at the end or the beginning, you'll always start off here. So just keep that in mind. All right, anytime you see Bahamut charge up his body in the air, he's going to slam straight down and release a shockwave. If you ever see him start to cast Aura Burst and you are anything but super far away from the boss, you need to charge Brimstone by holding R2 and square, and then just let Aura Burst go off. Your own Brimstone will explode in response, and then you're safe. But again, if you are far away enough, you will actually see that's an AoE attack that does not fill the entire arena. Instead, it's just about 3/4, so you can get away from it. All right, so sometimes Bahamut will cast Quintessence, and then you need to ready your new ability, Spit Flare. You do this by holding R2 and pressing triangle. I will warn you, you cannot invert the crosshair controls or the first-person controls in this game. It is incredibly frustrating as somebody who plays with inverted camera controls in every single video game since the 90s. You cannot invert your crosshairs or your sort of first person view. So every instance in this fight that has that, you're going to see me struggle with it because I just can't deal with non-inverted controls for the Y-axis on the camera. All right, so here's Aura Burst again. You can see it is actually just an AoE, doesn't fill the whole arena. If you're far enough away, you'll be able to dodge it. And then from here, the fight just sort of continues like normal. It's really just Quintessence that you have to begin to worry about. The boss does gain a beam ability. Eventually, when Bahamut gets lower on health, he will do two beams back to back. One will go left to right. The other one will go sort of up to down or horizontal. Or horizontal then vertical. So just be aware of that. Whenever you see a beam come out, always get ready for a second one because it is coming. Okay, so the 4-hit combo into the pushback finish still works here, so just be ready for that. You always want to try to string that together whenever possible. And even if you are attacking, but you are not necessarily near Bahamut, that fourth attack can still be strung into a fireball, so you can still get the backdraft finish even if the first few attacks don't connect. You just need that fourth one to connect, so just keep that in mind. So once you have the boss staggered, you can just keep doing that. You have an option here. You can just use Brimstone at will. However, I kind of recommend saving it for the eventual Aura Burst attack. I just like to play it safe. There's no harm in it. It's not a race. Okay, so eventually you will begin to control Phoenix, and then you will have to deal with non-inverted camera controls if you are an inverted player. That's what I'm trying to figure out right here, but it just does not exist in this game for some reason. So during this fight, it's sort of like a side scroller. Phoenix is facing to the right, but you're actually going to be shooting into the screen. It's a little strange. Whenever Bahamut begins attacking with beams, you want to just keep mashing R1 to evade and keep doing barrel rolls, and then just go along the perimeter of the screen in the same direction that the lasers are going. So if the lasers are coming from the left and going to the right, you want to dodge to the right and then go up and left, basically clockwise or counterclockwise. That's the way you want to think about it. So you'll notice here that I'm typically just holding triangle to charge the beam and then letting it go and just trying to target it onto Bahamut. It is not a hard target. You just have to guide it the whole time. But again, without inverted controls, I do have some difficulty here. That's just me. If you prefer regular controls, you're probably not having any difficulty at this point. All right, so sometimes Bahamut will cast a volley of orbs. For that, you want to hold circle to use lock on and then just target all of them. And then once everything has a target on it, let go. You will release a bunch of beams that take them all out, and then you're good to go. So Mega Flare here is probably the most tricky to dodge. Because there are so many beams, you need to make sure that you are continuously dodging, doing barrel rolls with R1, and just making your way across the screen. You have a total of 6 firelights. These do replenish in the second fight, so don't be afraid to heal when you're at like 20% HP. There's no harm in it. It doesn't cost hardly anything. There's no time. Just use the firelight if you need. Don't kill yourself over this fight. Okay, eventually, Bahamut will release these orbs. For now, I'm just going to shoot them manually. It's just a little bit easier. But eventually, in another Phoenix phase, all those are going to be connected, and there's a bit of a countdown associated with them. So for those, I'm going to kill with a beam. But for now, I'm okay just doing it manually. So you can see here, having a little bit of difficulty dodging that beam while trying to maintain some focus on Bahamut and deal some damage. But eventually, he just relents and starts using Mega Flare. And again, this is easy enough to dodge. You just got to move either clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on which angle the beams are coming from. So we're going to keep on him. Here comes volley again. Just hold the button, release your own volley, and then everything comes out, and all the orbs go away. And you can even get a few targets onto Bahamut with that as well to deal some extra damage if you'd like. These beam attacks, you could easily just fly away from those, or you can actually do an R1 evasion barrel roll on them. Up to you. So this is the next section of the Phoenix phase of the fight. So what I'm doing now is just avoiding Mega Flare. Phoenix is now facing to the left, but shooting into the distance, so it makes dodging a little tricky. So for this, I am using the beam on these orbs instead of, releasing a volley. It's okay, whatever you want to do. The volley just makes it easier when they all start separating. Just one way to deal with it. All right, so we have these orbs again. I'm just going to start shooting them. Whenever you dodge down below the screen, because of the way the targeting works, sometimes you could really lose it. So this is when I just start using the beam and charging it up to deal with these orbs quickly. All right, so now that one's done, we're going to deal with the beams. Unfortunately, there's not like a big tell when these beams are coming. If you sort of look at Bahamut's mouth, you can sometimes tell that it's coming, but he releases those short ones so quickly that sometimes you're just going to end up getting clipped. But again, it's okay. You've got 6 firelights for this fight, so you're okay. All right, so here's another Mega Flare. This time we are going to start dodging clockwise, so we're going to go up. Unfortunately, we're eating a lot of it, so I changed directions to try to avoid the rest. But sometimes, because of the way Phoenix is facing and the way it's flying, you just can't really control it that well. Okay, so getting into this next phase of the fight, more orbs come out, and now they're all connected. And when this happens, Bahamut will be counting down to Gigaflare. So what you need to do is you need to take out all the orbs. Every time you destroy one, they will sort of correct and always try to make a cross or a star. So it's cool that they don't like loosen up and sort of start floating everywhere. That's nice, but they do reposition themselves. So it's very important that you sort of keep an eye on them. All right, so now that we only have 2 left, this is easy enough to deal with. Unfortunately, that volley does make things pretty hectic, and so you gotta be aware of that. Definitely prioritize the volley over the orbs, because chances are you'll be able to get a little bit of damage onto the orbs while releasing your own volley, and you'll be okay. But once all those orbs go down, Bahamut's more or less stunned. You're gonna get some like critical style damage on him, some gold numbers, and then the more you do, the more damage it's gonna stack up. Okay, so now we are back in control with Ifrit, and Phoenix will also join into this phase as well. So we're going to start dodging the Mega Flare. You want to wait for the first volley of lasers to get close to you, and then you want to dodge, and then you basically just want to dodge right away. If you dodge too early, what will end up happening is you will dodge, and then you're kind of stunned after, or kind of stuck after that dodge, and then you're just going to eat the Mega Flare. It's going to mess up your timing, and you're not going to be able to dodge another one. Okay, so you'll notice that Bahamut is now jumping or pounding the ground twice in a row. This is going to happen more or less every time now in this phase. It's no longer going to be a single jump. However, this does get a little tricky because Bahamut will fly into the arena on a horizontal plane, just come straight at you more often, and that kind of has the same telegraph as the charged plummeting attack or the ground pound attack. So this is when he flies towards you. I was kind of expecting the other one. When he flies towards you in this final phase, lightning circles will show up on the ground. You got to avoid those, so just prioritize avoiding them rather than trying to get in on the boss and dealing damage. Let Phoenix pepper him for you just until you kind of get used to the fight. You will notice that he has a new laser beam attack. He can use that up to 3 times in a row, so you have to be very, very careful for that. That is called Mortal Coil. It's easy enough to dodge, but when he starts using it in quick succession, that can be quite difficult. So that's the confusion I'm talking about. Sometimes he's so far away from the arena that even though he's charging up a ground pound attack, it looks like he's coming straight for you. So it's a little tricky to dodge. It's okay if you just eat one. Doesn't deal a ton of damage, so it's okay. All right, this attack here, this is a really, really cool looking attack, but can be devastating. You'll notice there that I got hit by one of these beams, and then that sort of juggled me into another beam. So you got to be very, very diligent about dodging all of this. Terra Flare will begin getting cast, and the big telegraph for this is that the sky of this arena changes. So it changes, he starts using those beam attacks, and then Terra Flare comes up. After that, you want to listen to Joshua. You want to get behind him and get inside of that orb. If you are not inside of this orb, this attack will one-shot you. It actually three-shots you, but you're going to die if you do not stand inside of that big shield orb. So you want to make sure you do that, and then this is going to cause a QuickTime event to pop up on the screen. I usually cut these out, but this is a really important one because if you don't press square there, if you don't mash square, the shield fails and you're going to die. So you don't want that to happen. So after that, the fight continues, and then it just sort of repeats. Okay, so the boss is going to use triple coil now, which is the 3-hit mortal coil, except now when these beams land, they shoot up huge pillars of energy that you got to watch out for. So we have a double ground pound here into an aura burst. So if you are not close to stunning Bahamut, you want to use your own brimstone attack by holding R2 and square to charge that up. Eat the aura burst, you'll get the free counter attack, and then you can continue. But luckily, I was very close to a full stun on the boss, and so we went with this method. So did 814,000 damage there. One day I'd like to get to 1 million, but for now, we have to deal with Quintessence. And Spitflare in this phase combines both Ifrit and Phoenix, and you'll notice here, this is where I'm completely pooping the bed because of the non-inverted controls. I did not understand what to do there, but you just gotta hit the orbs. My brain just couldn't compute it. Luckily, though, if you fail it, as long as you've hit a couple, you should be able to get out of it. You could just walk around the orbs, but without inverted controls, I have an extremely difficult time dealing with that. It looks so comical that I just looked at the ground, but that's what happens. All right, so triple coil here one more time. Then the boss is going to do a really quick slam into a double slam, and then into an aura burst. And again, just use brimstone and just keep holding it until aura burst goes off. You will get the precision brimstone as soon as it counters. Just keep holding it until aura burst hits, and then you're good to go. So because the boss is starting to fly away from me a bit more, I'm peppering him with some fireball attacks. You can use the charged ones. They deal a little bit more damage, but it's just, trying to keep up the pressure as much as I can, and trying to do any damage that I can. Luckily, Joshua and Phoenix are really, really helpful in this fight. You'll notice that pretty much all of my half stuns on this boss are thanks to Phoenix. The beam that he does deals a decent amount of will damage, and he actually uses it quite frequently, which is nice. So right there, I thought that was a ground slam attack. It wasn't. The boss was torpedoing towards me, and then that was a ground slam, so it really tripped me up there. I didn't really know what I was looking at, but again, doesn't deal a ton of damage. I haven't even used a single firelight at this point, but just keep that in mind. You have 6 effective 75% health potions. But once you get him down to about 10% health, the rest is just a quick time sequence, and now it's time for the second fight. Okay, this is Ifrit Risen. Ifrit Risen is a combination of Ifrit and Phoenix, so it's Clive and Joshua together. All of the attacks are boosted, and they sort of have like double features. So the 4-hit combo into the fireball still exists. However, it's changed, but just keep 4 square, 1 triangle. That'll get you the combo. It just looks a little bit different, but it's effectively the same exact combo, and you can see it here on the demo screen. So you also get a new ability called Light Speed, which allows you to sort of jump towards the boss. We are floating in space, so there's no floor to walk on, so we basically have to rely on flying around, as well as Light Speed. So Light Speed is a Phoenix ability, as you can see by the icon in the bottom right, and then Wildfire, of course, is the skating ability that Ifrit has. We're really never going to use that much. So, we need to use Light Speed to close the gap and get in the boss's face. You'll notice that Bahamut is constantly trying to get away from us. And so what we need to do is we need to use Light Speed to get in his face. So I'm going to eat this Mega Flare just because I was still kind of figuring it out at this point. Normally what I do with these fights is I will get up to a phase, experiment for a while, and then just restart the fight and record the guide. This way it's a little bit cleaner. But because there's no quick save between the start of this fight and this fight, I didn't do that. I realized I probably could have saved manually and restarted, but I just wasn't sure where it would start me, and I didn't feel like doing the first part all over again. Okay, so Bahamut flies away, and then we're going to use Lightspeed to catch up. He still has these beam attacks. You can precision dodge those. What I recommend doing is doing your precision dodge and then immediately press X to Lightspeed into his face. Do that on the third and final one, otherwise you're going to end up eating one. The boss can cast Supernova. You want to use Brimstone to counter this as best you can. Otherwise, you're going to take a bunch of damage. Mega Flare, again, it's just lasers. You can actually just dodge to the right, and then you'll end up right behind the boss as long as you are in its face. Otherwise, you just got to dodge that like normal. So the boss was going to use Aura Burst there. I would have been in some trouble because my Brimstone was on cooldown. Luckily, I was able to get a full stun on the boss, and we were able to be okay. So whenever you have a full stun on the boss, highly recommend you use Spit Flare. Spit Flare does a ton of damage, and it's really the only time you need to use it. There is no quintessence in this part of the fight, so it's really there as a limit break style attack, so just use it whenever you get a full stun. After you get a full stun, Bahamut pushes you away and then starts moving around. There's some more quick time events, and this is where things start to get very crazy, and full honesty, it gets a little sloppy on my part. I really wish I could have tried this again, but I just didn't want to do that first part a third time because I had already done it twice. Okay, so he has these beams. They always arc either left to right or right to left, and you can just dodge through them. I was really misjudging the hitbox there, so I just messed it all up. Mega Flare, what I was trying to do here was see if I could just get behind the cast, because the Mega Flare cast actually happens in front of the boss, but it does have a hitbox behind it, so you can't just like sneak behind the boss or get like behind the cast. It doesn't work. So Radiance is a really devastating attack, and what you need to do is wait until two beams are lined up next to each other and then dodge through them. So you want to stay close to the beams as they're moving, and then once they sort of coalesce one on top of the other, that's when you want to dodge. Otherwise, you're going to constantly get clipped by them. So just pay attention to the satellites that are spawning those beams there. You should be able to dodge it without much of an issue. And again, this is where I found out, oh, just dodge the beams, John, duh. So kind of started to figure it out at this point in the game, but it's all good. All right, so this big attack here, that's easy enough to dodge. Just get between two of the beams. It doesn't rotate, but because you are literally floating in space, it's hard to tell when you are moving versus when you're standing still. It's very difficult to stand still in this fight. You're kind of always moving. So just make sure that you're really paying attention to your positioning when dealing with those beams. Otherwise, you'll end up getting clipped accidentally. Okay, so again, full stun. We use Spitfire, and then we just follow up with a volley of attacks. And this is the new backdraft finish with Ifrit Risen. So 4 hits into the 5th with Triangle, and then Joshua comes out with the big wings and starts dealing massive damage. So try to rely on that as best you can. If you're ever going to get a 4th hit, go for that 5th hit, and chances are you'll get it. Okay, so that big satellite attack, all I did was just back up and to the right and got into the corner of the screen and was okay. I tried to do the same thing here that I was doing with Mega Flare earlier, trying to get behind the cast. That does not work. Those satellites have hitboxes on the back of them or hurt boxes on the back of them, so you will take damage even though you were technically behind the satellite. So just keep that in mind. Okay, Terra Flare. Very similar to when you were just controlling Phoenix earlier on in the first fight, you have to stop Terra Flare from going off. However, instead of there being orbs you need to destroy, it's a typical purple limit break bar. You just need, or purple health bar, you just need to deal this whole purple health bar's worth of damage to the boss, and then it will not cast Terra Flare. Terra Flare will basically one-shot you, so you have to make sure you deplete that health bar. Just watch out for the beams that are shooting off as it's going. Just pay attention above and below you, and you should be okay. Although in my experience, they seem to be going in on a bit of a diagonal, so it's kind of difficult to dodge. Okay, so this is me, again, failing dodging Radiance. Again, just try to get close enough to the beam so when they are one on top of the other, you can dodge and be safe. Okay, so luckily able to get a 5-hit combo in there, one of the rare times I'm able to do it outside of a full stun. The hurt boxes on these satellites here, these gold beams, a little generous in my opinion. I felt like I wasn't touching that one, but it still clipped me on the shoulder. Not a huge deal, it happens. Here's Aura Burst. We use Brimstone to counter it. Just keep holding R2 and square the whole time, and eventually you'll break it. Okay, you Spitfire one more time, and then this is basically going to deplete the boss all the way. You'll notice that its health bar is no longer going down. This final 5% is part of a quick time event at the end, so you'll notice I'm doing all this damage, but the health bar isn't moving. It's because he's dead. Once he gets out of stagger, you have the final quick time events, and then the fight ends. And that's it. That's the Bahamut fight, or both Bahamut fights. I do hope this guide has been helpful to you. This is definitely one of the craziest things I've ever done in gaming in the past 31 years of my life. This is really cool. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to help you out. If you're looking for more guides for Final Fantasy 16, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new guides go live. If you're interested in supporting the channel monetarily, please consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below this video. You can also leave a super thanks by clicking the heart icon below this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. The links for those are in the description below. As always, I'm SweetJohnnyCage. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.